Welcome to the fourth episode of What's Trending with myself and Nolan. For both of us, it's been a very busy but also exciting week since our last episode. There's been so much going on both in the market and outside of the market. One thing I want to just briefly touch on is Corsair, which we talked in the last video. Had some results and went up 25%. So that was a really exciting one, especially since we talked about it on the episode. In this video, we're going to cover just a couple tickers. We're going to talk about Duolingo, Build-A-Bear, Robinhood, and Hims. These are four companies which I think there's quite a bit to talk about. And a lot of these have some element of some pretty exciting thing going on. So yeah, how has your week been, Nolan?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a blur. Busy week with work, so haven't been had a chance to listen to any earnings reports. So it's like even as we were getting ready for this meeting, it's like which one, that one, why was the day of earnings? Are they not? I mean, obviously some big moves. Like if you're only moving 5% after hours, it's like a small moving day. But yeah, so it's hard to keep up with everything. Again, I like this our format here where I get to get caught up to speed on things. So yeah, we can dive in here.
Yes. So the first one is really interesting and cool because it's kind of a marketing campaign which has caused a lot of success and interest in this brand. And of course, it's Duolingo. I think I can start here by just talking a little bit about the context of what this marketing campaign was. So if you're not familiar with what Duolingo did, Duolingo essentially just launched a marketing campaign around the mascot of Duolingo, which is massively viral, being dead or having died. So this is interesting, obviously, because Duolingo is very synonymous with their mascot and their character. And so this has brought a lot of interest into Duolingo, and on platforms like Twitter and various social media platforms, you'll see this trend of other businesses and companies commenting on their opinion and their view of what's happening with the Duolingo owl. So I think this is really interesting in my view, just because Duolingo has been a business that I think a lot of market participants underestimate pretty consistently. And I think it's because of how simple their business model or product is, which is essentially a language learning app. But then you have this language learning app, which is almost like a video game, and they attach all these things to it. They have an incredible marketing team, and it's brought a lot of success in terms of valuation and stock price rising. So what I think is interesting about this Duolingo campaign is similar to this data value that I'm plotting on screen. This is the Wikipedia searches for Duolingo over time. And typically Wikipedia tends to be a good gauge of new people who haven't heard of something starting to become interested in it or trying to research what it is. And Duolingo being such a mature app, which actually in some metrics has kind of topped out in terms of growth, meaning that there's been some level of saturation in terms of them being able to find new users in the market. A really good thing about a campaign like this is it's kind of reignited that growth of potentially attracting new users. And I think the market is seeing this, which is why the price is starting to move with this marketing campaign. But I think it's really cool when you see a product that reaches some point of saturation and starts to focus on monetization, which is what Duolingo was doing, which is essentially, if their user base starts to saturate to some extent, then just how can you better monetize your existing user base? And that's what Duolingo was doing. But now they have this opportunity to where they can get both sides, which is now they have this potentially massive new exposure of users who could become aware of Duolingo and enter into this better monetization setup, which they've now created. And Duolingo is a master of retention and monetizing their existing users. So I think this is a really interesting campaign for the brand, and I think it's something that Duolingo kind of needs to consistently maintain, and they've shown that. They've shown that they can almost always have these viral campaigns like very consistently. What do you think, Nolan?
Yeah, it's a company that I has add hymns on the end is a bit of a victory lap for me on one that's been well for the last year. But Duolingo is one that I have the receipts of when I sold Duolingo as well, which was a similar timeline around exiting my small position. I saw some slowdown, but it is quite clear, and this is coming from somebody who has a Duolingo streak that's actually embarrassingly long for how little Spanish I know. But the app has the X's on the I's. So they do a good job getting this buzz element going on here. But you can see the spike at the end of these kind of, this is my like overarching around the streak, around the gems, around Super Duolingo. So there's the paid version. There's Duolingo Max now, so I'd probably have to update this a little bit more to pay a little more attention to. I try to create some element here for every company. And again, this was a good example of, I believe every single company has search phrases that can be useful to assess short and long-term growth trajectories. Some companies will have particularly high correlation with search volume. Duolingo is a good example. So I think before you're going to buy Duolingo Super or Max, you're going to probably do some searches on it, or some amount will. So if the amount of researching base increases, knowing that everyone uses Google that same way, I think there's going to be some correlation that's some kind of correlated number between the research base and those that actually matriculate. And if I see the research base increasing, I think that the and expand into other alternative data sources to what's going on here. But they've done a really good job on creating buzz, because I think I had one of them queued up here. So like this is the next one, I think. It's like the what is Duolingo term has been dying down. Like in 2023, it's about been dipping. But if you look at a 7-day view of it, you can see it correlates right along. So these people that are earlier kind of filling the top of a funnel using a marketing term, these people that are looking to what is Duolingo, not even aware of it, has jumped in the red here. So there's definitely something cool that they've done to get people that weren't aware of we kind of think it's synonymous, right? Kind of somebody who's got a multi-year Duolingo streak thinks everyone's kind of heard of it. A lot of people haven't. This is how you get into new areas. This is how you grow. So pretty smart. Yeah, it's definitely a good little marketing case study here.
Yes, yes. I think it shows that trying new things in their marketing strategies works really well. And I mean, Duolingo shows consistently that they're not afraid to break the status quo and try marketing strategies that no one else has done. So yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that everyone agrees that Duolingo marketing strategy is strong, and the market clearly sees that as well. I definitely, for me personally, my view on this is that it's something that the market now has understood far better, right? Where whenever you have a company that can execute well for so long, and although this is a new campaign, it's not new that their marketing campaigns are successful. So whenever you have this consistency and good execution, I think the market kind of starts to price it in more and more. So in terms of the opportunity in Duolingo, it might be a little bit less so. But that being said, I definitely would not say that they're not going to perform just because of what you're mentioning. Attracting new users, that's the part that they needed to do, and now they're doing it, and they did it massively well with this new campaign. And I think that goes into another brand that is also attracting a new client base, and that's Build-A-Bear. Build-A-Bear has been very interesting as well, because it's this child focused brand which has realized more and more over time, and now it's clear that them as a business are realizing this, that there's a massive opportunity in the toy market for adults. And I think one business that executed on this extremely well was Pop Mart. And if you're unaware of what Pop Mart is, Pop Mart essentially was a business which is I believe they're based out of Hong Kong, and they sell blind boxes, which are boxes where you don't know which toy you're getting, but essentially they assign rarities to various toys, and then people purchase a lot of these blind boxes to try to get the collectible figures, which then have some form of resale value. And these are just entirely toys. They're not, there's nothing really beyond that besides the fact that it's a toy. So I think that more and more adults are becoming interested in these toys to some extent. And so what Build-A-Bear has done is they recently started this marketing campaign around one of their new segments, which is the Build-A-Bear After Dark product, which they have, or the Bear Cave product, which is essentially a place where they sell more adult-themed Build-A-Bears. And accompanying the Bear Cave, they've now launched some marketing campaigns around Valentine's Day for some of their more adult-themed Build-A-Bears, such as some of the ones on their TikTok page, where it's definitely less kid-oriented, more older type of marketing campaigns. And some of these videos have now attracted millions of views. I think it gets that shock factor where you say, this is a kid's brand. Like, why are they promoting it like this? And that shock value has kind of, in my opinion, been the right time, the right place, where you're going into Valentine's Day, you need to be purchasing gifts, or, especially when these types of toys are already so popular. Build-A-Bear is placing themselves in the mind of the consumer at the right time, and they've really hit on this marketing campaign, and it also propels them into the potential for more kind of adult-focused and themed products that they can continue selling in the future.
I was kind of curious how they were able to separate. So again, my day-to-day job last year and a half, and working at Chewy, was an agency before that. I mean, through meta advertising, YouTube, and things like that, you can really run ads that are specific to somebody. So you can kind of you don't have to, it's not all just buying, obviously, like a billboard where the brand would get tarnished by this element. So they can really niche down. I saw one of the most popular products has been the Cougar. So these interesting ones, you see what's been trending. Again, so the main thing that I like to do, and I'll share my screen on this one, especially was, again, even this is not a position I have now, but they've definitely had a pretty successful last 90 days or so. Let's do the share here. So there was, getting to the site, there was an 18 plus to get into this portion. So it's not that easy to get from the regular homepage to it. So they've done a good job kind of like creating some firewalls where you don't, it doesn't get in there. So they've done really well.
Right. You can't find it unless you know about it.
Yeah. Unless exactly. So they've done a really good job there. But if you look at again, topic terms I kind of like sometimes, but I always kind of like, it's just a random thing. I always try to check how correlated is the topic to me. Just doing those head terms, it's just a little, if I see that they're very correlated, I put a little more weight in the topic portion. But then you can start to use the rising query to then say, okay, well, the Cougar Build-A-Bar that I was just talking about has been trending, and it hit up. It again, obviously kind of got a little bit of some virality about it, and then we'll see what happens from there. But this is a very successful launch, in my estimation, from the marketing perspective, what they did, where they got the word out that this is an option. If you needed a Valentine's Day option, we're recording this market close on Valentine's Day, this was a pretty good thing to now put into the box of options for you. So again, another, I guess it's turning into a marketing hats off channel, but they did a pretty good job on this one too.
Yes, I think they did a good job. And I mean, Build-A-Bears, they've had good recent momentum in general. And for me personally, especially saying, if we're a marketing channel or just talking about good marketing strategies, something that we've always joked about at Ticker Trends a little bit is, eventually we want to get more into actually influencing some of these brands. And I think this is a great example where we've always joked that if we could somehow communicate to Build-A-Bear that they need to do blind boxes, then this would be a business that we would basically bet a significant amount on, because of how much it could propel the whole brand. So I think there's a lot of opportunity within some of these toy businesses, and it's really interesting to track just because I think Build-A-Bear, they have that brand name, which has just been around for so long. That I think there's a lot of value in that, especially in a market that, like plush toys or stuffed bears, where it can be hard to differentiate. So I think they've done a good job of that. And I mean, even something else is for example, they're not on Amazon, and they're not on some of these e-commerce distribution platforms. So like, yeah, I just think there's a lot that maybe like an activist investor or someone could do with Build-A-Bear, but it also just means that Build-A-Bear themselves have a lot of opportunity to really grow this brand if it has the right management and execution.
Well, even just, I mean, you see me, I know I'm my screen sharing. So again, I'm always curious of these brands making this pivot from more brick and mortar to e-commerce. And so this does essentially, yes, it's cool that they open to an older demographic, but also those that want to purchase online for gift giving. So just being an e-commerce element, I know, again, I have a 2.5-year-old son who went to a birthday party. The quick thing we did was to get a Build-A-Bear gift card. So it's a pretty easy one. It's somewhat thoughtfulness as opposed to giving an Amazon one. But I was surprised it came in like a giant box and it was just a card. So they've got a lot to go. You can tell that they're still like working on getting their e-commerce game in order.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that like Build-A-Bear and then the word code, so the coupon code or promo code. It's one thing I use to get a gauge of how an e-commerce site is doing. Is a quick way to see how their traction is doing. But yeah, support things like that is maybe not quite as much as e-commerce, but anyways, yeah, they've got a good thing going in that direction for them.
Mm. Yes, I think Build-A-Bear is an interesting one to watch. Now, speaking of recent earnings and recent results, Robinhood just announced the results. And this was one that, well, I think I tweeted this as well on our account, which was essentially that the market is playing catch up with the incredible growth and results of Robinhood. And this earnings was kind of just another example of that. Obviously, they hit some large landmarks in terms of revenue and profitability, but I think Robinhood is just executing so well on everything. And I started to see this whenever they launched the Robinhood Gold card, as that was just marketed incredibly, and they were entering into that segment so well to bolster their subscription and some of their more premium services. And now with everything that they've been doing with the growth of some cryptocurrency markets, and then also the prediction markets, it's just like perfect execution after perfect execution of saying, we saw what was happening with Polymarket and with these other prediction websites, let's integrate that into our platform. We saw what's happening with the meme coins and these other cryptocurrencies, let's integrate that into our platform really well. And it's like each financial trend or each trend that they can leverage off of, they've just executed so well. And I think there's actually a lot of opportunity for some of these things because a little bit what I was thinking is I think that these prediction markets and the meme coins, I was calling it the flavored tobacco for gambling, which is a little bit, it's like an introduction into saying like, hey, look, you invest in some meme stocks or some risky stocks. Why don't you look at prediction markets? Why don't you look at meme coins? And it almost funnels you into taking riskier and riskier bets. And so in a way, it's almost like Robinhood has like quietly entered into the gambling market without expressly saying it. And so I think it's just a really interesting business. And I'm really excited about the growth just because I think it's just an example of a perfect management execution on like each opportunity that they have. They take it and take it to the next level. And that's what you need to do whenever you have such tough competition, but also competition that doesn't innovate anywhere close to how Robinhood does it.
100%. So I've now shared it a few times. There are some trades I'll take and I view them really much as a trade. For a while, I kind of view myself as an investor. The reality is I've never really been an investor if you're doing equity and planning to hold it for a year. But I am hoping to have a position that I have for just based on having a full-time job and not paying attention to this all the time. I am looking for areas that the market itself is growing and then their piece of the pie is growing. And it is quite clear. I mean, Robinhood, for a long time, I was embarrassed that I was a Robinhood user when I kind of bought my first equity in 2016 or so. Like I was embarrassed about that being how I traded, but I'm a little less embarrassed of it now. And so I am also, this is a really good example, like a search volume, is Robinhood safe? What else do they have at the end of there? Robinhood and Social Security. So you're kind of like when you're signing up, you're like, oh, they're asking my Social Security number. Is it safe? Um, as a way to gauge, I mean, obviously you're going to get a greater percentage of those signing up for Robinhood are probably new users versus E-Trade is safe. Like those people that are signing up for E-Trade probably already know it, but like, so these are again some old views I've had, but I think I scrolled a little bit. But I mean, I have a lot of Robinhood thoughts over the years. Um, so it's nothing my eye here, but yeah.
Yes, yes. I think Robinhood, they've been a really interesting business. Something, I guess, tying back in some things that happened in the office. This is also an example of a business where I remember towards the end or middle of last year, someone was talking about like if there's one position that they can have in their portfolio that they would go all in on, what should that position be? And at the time, you know, in a half joking way, I was so confident that these types of there's just the retail investing market would continue to expand. When we were getting into that early phase of cryptocurrency growth, when Trump was about to come into office, and at the time I had said, well, you know, if I could go all in on one business, with like a very high risk intent, that Robinhood would be that business. So I mean, in hindsight, it looked very, very accurate, but I thought that was a funny story, and you know, I'm sure that for many people that kind of was the case, especially with the market that they attract. But I'm very excited personally that this grows the personal investing retail base, and that just means that more and more individuals are getting involved in the market, and so I'm really excited for that. I think this next one,
Well, real quick.
yep.
So yeah, because I am rocking my OG dumb money one. I know Chris Camillo has also shared. I mean, his thoughts on this one being, um, again, there's also like a wealth transfer thing going on. Eventually, as far as boomers boom, it's going to continue to go down, and it's more the market's going to be the younger investor here. So it is one that again I feel confident for this to be a, again, if I had the one, I mean, it's not the decision we have to make. You know, hold it for a year. I always say I'm not planning to. I don't have a planned exit. I don't exactly know what I'm going to do. But it is one where if I had the requirements of you got to hold it for over a year, or throughout a whole administration, this would be a pretty good one. I know Chris has said this is one of his main. In an environment of deregulation, is a pretty good bet. But yeah, we on to the next year.
Yes, yes, and I mean with Robinhood, I guess one more thing I want to mention now as well, is that it has been a retail trader's gold mine in a way. I mean, when you look at the businesses that have done well, Palantir, Tesla, like these AI stocks, meme coins, all of these like Reddit, these retail focused businesses have appreciated so much. So I think this is, and Bitcoin, this has really contributed to the flywheel of Robinhood's growth. And so yeah, I think it's been a big contributing factor for Robinhood as well. It's really right place, right time. And also, I think that the great thing about these situations is when investors have that first experience, which is so positive, I think it turns someone from you know, a passive investor to someone who is actively interested in markets, maybe for the rest of their lives. So it's just such a great onboarding into markets for so many people. And the next business, I think you can start with, Nolan, because this is one that you're quite familiar with, is Hims, which has also experienced some very impressive growth, and has been one that, especially on Twitter, and there are many dedicated pages actually to the coverage of this business in general, is Hims and all of the telehealth growth that they've achieved.
Yeah, again, I started being humble about, you can find the receipts of my, again, I don't list every buy and sell, but I try to, if it's a bigger position that I had a number of tweets on, I try to at least let it be known of what I'm thinking and the why behind what I'm thinking. Not financial advisors, not financial advice, but it's definitely a thing where I'm trying to share what I'm doing and the why behind what I'm doing, an emphasis on the why behind what I'm doing. And Hims has been one I've been in for a while. I did, admittedly, when I heard the news about how that was it, I don't remember which government body it was that was ruling that they were pausing on like the ability for, it was like supply constrained with Ozempic is kind of why they were able to do the semaglutides for hims, and there was that was going to be paused. I guess as I've read a little bit more, it's not going to be an immediate thing. They're going to, see how foreseeable future that is, but it is a pretty small percentage of their today. But they've done a really, so I kind of had a little bit of pause, but really since the middle of last summer, every big move down, I've kind of nibbled on it, and it is now a top 3 or 4 biggest position of mine. Again, I've got lots of positions, so it's not a huge percentage, but um, it is one that's done really well. They've had success with their advertising, both in the playoffs, and I think they've had a Super Bowl commercial. I think I saw that, but they've done a really good job. And again, it's just, but it is this kind of a price action. I don't want to bring the price action up too much here, but I will do it for this case. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. As somebody who's had Bitcoin for a while, this is even crazier of the last year. What's gone on? I mean, this is a pretty crazy one. And again, if people put it up of the price of sales of this one compared to Palantir or otherwise, again, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about those type of things in our alternative data conversation today, but they're doing really well. It is one that's super e-commerce focused, so kind of all those type of things where you're looking at support, codes, is it safe, HIMS plus the word Reddit, HERPS plus the word Reddit. There's just a number of ways in which you can kind of gauge how people are in that early stage of using it. And again, there's a dashboard I shared. I think Adrien and I both have talked to the guy Joe at Main Street Data, where you can see the revenue over time. I think on his view, he does have the subscribers over time and the AOV the average sales per subscriber. So you can see that they're growing the number. I'm trying to find where I have my tab here. I'm a bad multitasker. But they've done really well to accelerate the average order value. See it accelerating, and then subscribers are just a stairway to heaven there. So they're doing pretty well on what they're doing. And again, as long as I see search volume of these things that are gauging these early, like, is it safe? Is it okay? It's doing well. They're not the only show out there. I'd be very eager to, if I think it's called, it used to be Roman, it's called Row now. If some of those were to IPO, I'd be interested in the space. But they've got a really, they're growing really fast, eating a incumbent player in kind of traditional medicine. So I think they've, it's a company that I'm excited to continue to own, and I'm kind of just sitting on it for now, and we'll see what the next 5 or 10% move is, up or down.
Yes, I think for HIMS, this was a business that I think maybe the reason why it was suppressed for a bit is because the market, there were so many catalysts, I guess, both ways, of both the success of HIMS and the risks for HIMS. And so I think it created a very unique situation where even in this business that was growing and executing so well, the market was still really uncertain about the future of this business. And so it's transitioned back and forth between these moments of like certainty and uncertainty. And HIMS has been great, and they did what they need to do, which is just continue to grow and improve their business over time, until the market just can't, I guess, ignore it anymore. So yeah, there were a lot of people that were very confident in it, and a lot of people who were more uncertain about it. And it created a unique situation where there was such a big upside potential. And then now when you see this business with everything HIMS and HERS login just skyrocketing, these viral ads that they have all the time. I know they just had a Super Bowl campaign and everything like that. I mean, it makes the market say, well, before the market was so afraid if Amazon could launch their own telehealth, or some other company, could just come in and take what HIMS has, or maybe there was a regulatory body that could impact their weight loss medicine, and they've kind of just chugged through every single potential controversy or scandal, and kept the business growing. So it's been a really impressive player. And I mean, like those numbers that you were displaying earlier, when you have the average users just consistently rising, all of their metrics are just consistently exponentially rising, and there's clearly a massive amount of product fit with what they do, and brand name that they've now created for themselves, where they've become synonymous, or the number one kind of online telehealth provider. I think it's just the example of taking a technology or industry that was thought to be impossible maybe to get to the scale that they got to, and they executed on it successfully. So it's been a really great one to watch.
And I think, again, we're always looking for this element of information parity, as I think Chris calls it, of when is there something aware that you thought you knew that the market didn't know. But even the ticker symbol being hims versus hers, I think there is a lot of arb still in the hers elements of hers and medication. I mean, and again, hers is a word people it's actually in the common, it's actually in the English language. You have to be a little tricky with a little careful with some of these. But again, I still believe that if you're searching, it's got hers in the word reviews. Most of these ones are about the forhers.com website. So it's, and this is actually, I didn't even realize this going into this with that. I mean, there's an interesting spike. I always, the dotted lines, you always kind of take them with a grain of salt and let them kind of see what they're going to end up being there. But they've got something really strong going on. Again, price movement like this, it's who knows that the 30% drop down day could happen any moment too. So if not more, but it's an interesting one that, again, winning share in a space I think it's going to be bigger. I think people get Adderall and people get finasteride or etc. These are things you're going to want to just, you don't want to have to go schedule an appointment, go see somewhere. You want it just sent to you. And so I think it's just how people buy, and it makes sense that health is also in that bucket from my vantage point. So yeah, it's one that I'm interested in, and it's one that I'd be very curious what it looks like in 5 years from now. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to track long term, and to see how the growth is. I also agree that one thing's for sure about that company, which is I think it'll just keep being very volatile. So I mean,
Yeah.
does that mean that it could continue to have a lot of upside? It could continue to dip up and down a lot. So I think it provides opportunity for people who are really interested in that business, to be able to track it over time, and maybe get some really good opportunities in it, because if they have another scandal, or some other uncertainty in the market, and you're really confident it's just going to keep growing, you can buy a lot of it, and the earnings might come out again, and surprise the market that they're still growing. So it's a very, I guess, exciting one to trade and track over time.
Yeah, we'll see how often me retweeting a tweet that ended up going in the right direction is a sign of a market top. But hopefully it won't happen too much. But it is one that's been, and again, these are things that your community has bubbled up to me. It's kind of why I got curious on these ones. So again, the community is amazing. I wish I just had more time to read every post on all the ones there, because there's a lot going on right now in a market like this. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Again, no some exuberance in there. So we'll see how it goes, but hope everyone else had a really good week out there. A lot of green, but it's been a fun one, even if it's been a particularly busy one.
Yes, it's been a really exciting week. I mean, we're right in the middle of the earnings season, so many businesses announcing, so many opportunities, both on the long and short side. So yeah, I agree with Nolan. There's been a lot of great discussion going on in the Discord, so I definitely recommend checking out the Discord. And of course, I know we've both mentioned our Twitter pages as well. Make sure to follow those to stay up to date with a lot of these tweets that we're making about the companies we talk about here, and even many opportunities and businesses beyond that. Yeah, I think this was, I really enjoyed this fourth episode. It was a little bit shorter in terms of the number of tickers we were covering, but I think there was still a lot of interesting things to talk about.
I'll add one YouTube algorithm thing. If there's some tickers you want to see, please throw them in the comments. 4 characters is all you need. Would love to see them, and we'll definitely incorporate a couple of those in the next episode.
Yes. Give us plenty of suggestions of tickers, and we, of course, we'll definitely get those in the next episode. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys soon.